Hello and welcome to our daily learning time. We're going to learn about the letter P today. P looks like this. There's the uppercase and the lowercase p. The letters look the same, but they're not in the same place on the handwriting house. So let's see what they look like, and then we'll look at how to write them on the handwriting house. Now, when I write the letter P, I often say it looks a lot like bubbles, like blowing bubbles. Let me see if I can catch a bubble. I got it. So the letter P looks like this. It's kind of like when you're blowing bubbles and you have a bubble wand, and then there's the bubble. That's what letter P looks like. Let me show you. So let's start with our bubble wand. It looks like a number 1. And then we're going to blow a bubble. So that's what the letter P looks like, the uppercase letter P. Let's see what that looks like on the handwriting house. The number 1 is going to go upstairs and downstairs, and the bubble is going to go upstairs. So here we go, number 1, and then blow a bubble upstairs. Looks like a bubble wand and a bubble. This is the uppercase P, so it goes upstairs and downstairs. Okay, that wasn't so hard. Did you know that the lowercase p looks exactly like uppercase P? So I'm going to write it again, though, for you just to show you. They look the same, so it's just the 1 and the bubble. But on the handwriting house, our lowercase p is going to be a little bit further down. So we're going to start, since this is a little letter, we're going to start downstairs, but it's a teenage letter. It's going to hang out in the basement. So there's our 1 and our bubble. 1 bubble. The bubble is downstairs this time. 1, it goes all the way into the basement, and then the bubble is downstairs. 1 bubble. 1 bubble. So that's the lowercase letter P. Now let's talk about what letter P sounds like. P sounds like this. I have to take my lips and poke them in, and then I'm going to poke them right back out. P, P, P. P says P, P, P. You try. P says P, P, P. It sounds like I'm popping bubbles, so let me blow some bubbles for you right now, and I want you to look at your screen and try to pop them and make the letter P sound. P, 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 as you pop. All right, here we go. P, P, P. Did you pop them? P, P. All right, let's try again. P, P, P. Can you make the letter P sound again? P says P, P, P. Good job. One more time. What does P say? P says P, 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 P. Okay, so let's do some blending with the letter P now that we know what it sounds like. Reading is just blending the letter sounds together. So we start with 2 letter sounds. We're going to need our vowels for this, though. Can you remember what the vowels are? The vowels are A, E, I, O, U, A, E, I, O, U, A, E, I, O, U. These are the vowels. Okay, well, let's put the letter P with the letter A. P says P, and A says ah, like when you're sneezing. Ah. All right, here we go. P, ah, pa, pa, pa. Okay, let's try again. This time we're going to put a letter P with an E. E looks like an ear, and E says eh, like eh. What'd you say? Eh. All right, here we go. P, eh, pe, pe, pe. Nice job blending. Let's try P with an I. Remember I, it looks like an icky sticky lollipop. Eh. Here we go. P, 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 P. Okay, let's try P with an O. O looks like this. Ah. Here we go. P, ah, paw, paw, paw. Now let's blend with the letter U. U sounds like this. When you have a tummy ache, you say, oh. Here we go. Paw, 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 paw. Well, if you're ready for blends, practice these today. Pa, pe, pi, paw, paw. If you're not quite ready for blends, what I'd like for you to do today is blow some bubbles and say P says P as in, and then pop, 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 pop. Try to pop the bubbles and make the pop, pop, pop sound. Okay, now for our math today, we're going to do something fun. P says P as in Peppa Pig, and we're going to be doing a bar graph using Peppa Pig and her friends. Take a look at this. I'm going to put the link below so you can know where to get this. I thought it was super cute. So the first friend that we're going to need to count is Peppa. You can pause this and print one for yourself or just use mine. So let's circle all the Peppas over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 Peppas. So let's look at the bar graph. Find Peppa, here she is, and we're going to color 6 boxes right on the top of Peppa, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you see we color 1 box for each of the Peppas. So there are 6 Peppa Pigs. Okay, now let's see if we can find how many Georges there are. Okay, so I see there's a George. George is wearing a blue shirt. There's a George. So how many Georges were there? 2. So over here where I see George, I'm going to color 2 boxes. 1, 2. There were 2 Georges. Okay, next we have the friend with the purple dress. What's her name? Zoe. Okay, is it Zoe Zebra? Let's circle Zoe Zebra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 Zoes, so let's color 8 boxes right here where Zoe is on the bar graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, there were a lot of Zoes. Okay, and then finally, let's see if we can see how many Rebecca rabbits there are. Let me erase all these circles around Zoe. All right, let's look for Rebecca Rabbit. She has a green dress on. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's find Rebecca on the bar graph and let's color 4 boxes for Rebecca. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, do you see how a bar graph works? It makes it super easy for you to see how many of each friend we had. So I want you to tell me which of these has the most. Which of our friends had the most pictures? It was Zoe. Nice job. Zoe had 8. I can see the number 8 over here, and I colored all the way up to the 8, so I can quickly know that there are 8 Zoes. Okay, now, which had the least? The least. George. George had the least. How many did George have? How many pictures did George have? 2. That's right. See, I colored up to the number 2. George had 2. That was the least. Okay, now I want you to see if you can help me know how many Rebecca rabbits there were. How many Rebecca rabbits were there? There were 4. There's the number 4, and I can see I colored all the way up to the number 4 for Rebecca. Finally, can you tell me how many Peppa Pigs there were? How many? 6. There were 6 Peppa Pigs. Nice job. Now, I have to tell you something about Peppa Pig's friends. Sometimes they can be a little bit tricky. So for our next activity, for our math time, we're going to be trying to figure out what number those friends are hiding. So let me show you this number line. Okay, the first friend is Rebecca Rabbit. Rebecca Rabbit is hiding a number. Let's start with 0 and let's count and see what number Rebecca is hiding. 0, 1, 2. Rebecca, how could you hide our number 2? Let's try the next one. So which friend has a pink dress? Do you remember who that is? Susie Sheep, that's right. Okay, let's count and find out what number is Susie Sheep hiding. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What's next? 9. Susie Sheep, how could you hide our number 9? The next friend is wearing a brown shirt. Who is this friend? Danny Dog. Okay, Danny Dog, are you hiding a number 2? Let's look and find out what number Danny is hiding. Let's start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What's next? 5. Danny Dog is hiding number 5. Now let's do the last one. This is George. George, not you too. You're hiding a number from us too. Let's count and find out what George is hiding. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. George was hiding number 7. Those friends were being so tricky. Well, today we're going to do a color, and that color is pink, of course. I have a pink pig right behind me. Peppa is a pig, and she's pink. But in the song, it says, "Fat pink pig." So instead of saying that part, I don't want to hurt Peppa Pig's feelings. We're going to say Peppa Pig in the song, okay? So let's see if we can sing it together. Cotton candy, Peppa Pig, girls with socks and bows. P-I-N-K, P-I-N-K, that is how it goes. Bubblegum, valentines, they are all pink too. Pink icing and pink balloons, we can spell, can you? So that's how you spell pink. Well, now I want to show you our shape for today. I'm going to show you this bar of soap. This is our shape for today. What shape do you see right here? It's a rectangle, but you know what? This is not a rectangle. Do you know why? Because a rectangle is flat and this shape is not flat. Look. So can you imagine washing your hands with a flat piece of soap? I can hold this, but I will say this, every side has a rectangle. There's a rectangle, there's a rectangle, there's a rectangle, there's a rectangle, there's a rectangle. So all of the sides are rectangles. Do you know how I know? Because a rectangle has 2 sides short and 2 sides long. Like Fred's tank, 2 sides short and 2 sides long. Thanks, Fred, for letting us use your home. Okay, so this is not a rectangle, but there are rectangles on all the sides, so it's called a rectangular prism. Can you say that? Rectangular prism. And there are some parts to a rectangular prism that I want to talk about today. So one of the things is when I look at the rectangular prism, this part, how tall it is called the height. That's called the height. When I look at how thick it is, that's called the width. Width. And then when I look at how long it is, that's called its length. So height, width, and length. I just want to introduce you to those words today. Okay, now I'm going to use this soap for a science experiment. Why am I doing a soap experiment? Because Peppa Pig loves muddy puddles. That's what she loves more than anything in the whole wide world. But after getting in all those muddy puddles, Peppa Pig needs to get in the bath and use soap to get clean. So we're going to do a fun experiment today with some soap. So let's head to my microwave and try it out. Okay, so we are going to do a science experiment today. I'm just taking a bar of Ivory soap and I'm putting it on a microwave safe plate. And let's see what happens when we put it in the microwave. I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Wow, look how big it's getting. Whoa, that is amazing. So what happened was the soap had air whipped into it, like when you stir and whip eggs, how air gets in it and that makes it nice and fluffy. And so when you heat it up, it expands and releases all that air. So it makes it really cool, almost like snow. So that was a fun science experiment. So here it is. That was a cool experiment. You have to use Ivory for this experiment. It doesn't work with any other kind of soap. But do you know what? That's the great thing about science. You can try things and just see what happens. So if you'd like to try some different kinds of soap, that would be fun too, just to see what it does. But look at this. It almost looks like snow. It's so cool. That was a neat experiment. Now we're going to do a book today for story time. It's about Peppa Pig. In fact, it's called The Story of Peppa Pig. So let me read that to you now. The Story of Peppa Pig. Once upon a time, there was a lovable, slightly bossy little piggy named Peppa. More than anything in the whole wide world, Peppa loved jumping up and down in muddy puddles. Mummy Pig was Peppa's mommy. She was very wise about most things. Mummy Pig would say, "Peppa, when you jump in muddy puddles, you want to wear your boots." Daddy Pig was Peppa's daddy. He loved eating cookies, and he had a big round tummy. When Daddy Pig jumped in muddy puddles, he made a very big muddy splash. When Peppa's little brother George was born, Peppa helped look after him. And as soon as George was old enough, Peppa taught him how to jump in muddy puddles. "George," Peppa said, just like Mommy Pig, "if you jump in muddy puddles, you must wear your boots." George liked muddy puddles, but he liked his toy Mr. Dinosaur more. Even though George couldn't speak yet, he could say one word very well. "Dinosaur! Grr!" Sometimes Peppa got a little bit annoyed with George. "George," she would sigh, Why do you always say dinosaur for everything? It's so boring. One day, Peppa, George, Mummy, and Daddy Pig got into their little car and drove to their new house on top of a little green hill. Peppa was excited about the new house, but she was very excited about the very wet and extremely muddy puddles in the yard. Can we go and jump in the muddy puddles? Asked Peppa. It's nearly time for bed, Peppa, replied Mummy. You'll have to wait until tomorrow. Peppa and George woke up very early the next morning and went to find Mummy and Daddy Pig. Can we go outside and jump in muddy puddles? Asked Peppa excitedly. We're going to Granny and Grandpa Pig's house today, Peppa, replied Mummy Pig sleepily. You can jump in muddy puddles there. After breakfast, it was time to leave, so Peppa and her family jumped into their little car. Ready? Asked Daddy Pig cheerily. Yes, Daddy Pig, everyone shouted back. Then let's go, shouted Daddy Pig. Beep, beep. Yippee, cried Peppa. She couldn't wait to get to Granny and Grandpa Pig's house and jump in muddy puddles. The family soon arrived at Granny and Grandpa's house. Peppa and George were very excited. They loved going to visit Granny and Grandpa Pig. Granny Pig, Grandpa Pig, cried Peppa. Gengi egg, Baba egg, shouted George. Hello, my little ones, answered Granny Pig. Come inside. Granny, said Peppa, can I jump in muddy puddles, please? I think Grandpa Pig has something to show you first, Peppa, said Granny Pig. Peppa was a little disappointed. She really wanted to jump in muddy puddles. Grandpa Pig took Peppa and George to his vegetable garden. This is where I grow my vegetables, said Grandpa Pig. First I plant some seeds. P is for plant. Can we eat your yummy vegetables, Grandpa? Asked Peppa, forgetting all about muddy puddles. We have to wait for them to grow a bit bigger, replied Grandpa. Ooh, gasped Peppa excitedly. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. Oh dear, gasped Grandpa Pig. That was thunder. That means it's going to rain. We should hurry inside before we get wet. Peppa, George, and Grandpa Pig ran inside as fast as they could to get out of the rain. Peppa and George watched the rain splish, splash, splosh down the window. George started to cry. Don't cry, George, said Peppa. It's only rain. But George wasn't crying because it was raining. George was crying because he had lost Mr. Dinosaur. Dinosaur, George cried. Peppa searched upstairs. Peppa searched downstairs and even in the toilet. Is that funny? Peppa searched in the toilet to try to find the dinosaur, but she couldn't find Mr. Dinosaur anywhere. Just then, she had an idea. Peppa ran outside and found a very wet Mr. Dinosaur in Grandpa's very muddy vegetable garden. She ran inside and gave Mr. Dinosaur to George. George was very happy. The rain has stopped, cried Peppa. What can we do now? I have a very good idea, Peppa, said Daddy Pig, pointing outside. Hooray, cheered Peppa, seeing the muddiest puddles ever. Peppa had been so busy looking at Grandpa's vegetables and searching for Mr. Dinosaur, she had forgotten all about jumping in puddles. Peppa loved jumping up and down in muddy puddles more than anything in the whole wide world. All of Peppa's family loved jumping up and down in muddy puddles more than anything in the whole wide world. And that's just what they did. They jumped up and down in muddy puddles together. The end. Well, they're going to need some soap after all those muddy puddles. I hope you had fun today. We made a soap experiment in science. Don't forget to practice your blends, or if you're not ready for blends, then you just blow some bubbles and you practice what P says. What does P say? P says, pop, 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 and you pop some bubbles today. And if you want to, you can get the bar graph and you can fill that in for homework. I'll see you next time for our daily